Good evening. We're going to start the council meeting for July 13th, 2020. We will begin by reciting the pledge, and then we will offer a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States flag
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, roll call, please.
Certainly. Mr. Delaney?
Present.
Mr. Dern?
Here.
Mr. Doyle?
Here.
Mr. Hadley is dialed in via telecom.
Here.
You. Mr. Odom?
Present.
Mr. Pastor?
Here.
Mayor Schlegel?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Motion to approve the treasurer's report for the month of June.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the expenses for the month of June
So moved.
by Mr. Doyle,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Dern. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Payables requiring council approval for the month of July, General Fund, $757,614.52. Payables requiring council approval from the Street Improvement Fund, $120,090.74. Payables requiring council approval from the Fire Fund, $54,459.21. Payables requiring council approval from the Liquid Fuels Fund, $346,898.17. Capital Improvement Fund, payables requiring council approval, $119,034.63. Flood Mitigation Fund, payables requiring council approval, $31,155.01. Emergency Medical Services Fund, payables requiring council approval, $17,101.06. 2019 Bond Fund, payables requiring council approval, $10,368. Purchasing card direct vendor payments, Republic Services, $167,711.05. And miscellaneous borough purchases of $56.94. Total payables to be approved, $1,624,489.33.
Having received a motion and a second, would you vote to approve the expenses for the month of June? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion to approve the minutes of the June 8th, 2020 council meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Dern.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pastor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recognition of achievements in the community. Mayor Schlegel.
I have nothing at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Civic announcements. Anyone here to represent the library or Plum Community Center?
We do not, but we do have a representative from Mayor Dussel to do the audit presentation to council.
Okay. Please proceed.
Do you mind if I remove my mask?
Absolutely, please do.
You won't hear me. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Betsy Kreischer. I serve as your audit engagement partner for the Borough Plum 12/31/19 audit. What we have issued final that you should have received this evening, there's a communication to those charged with governance letter that's required communication about the audit process and the results of the audit. The audited financial statements prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles with our independent auditor's report. Prior, by April 1st, we had already issued your DCED report. So now this is the GAAP report, again, full financials in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. A management letter that has one food for thought comment regarding ensuring regular cybersecurity training for all borough staff, as well as then just a table of reminder of pending accounting pronouncements as the Government Accounting Standards Board continues to pump out a lot of new standards that have to be adopted in future years. We also issued, which you would have received this evening, audited financial statements for the real estate tax collector and a management letter for the real estate tax collector that just reminds you, of course, this is a small office, so it's hard for that office to fully segregate duties, and the borough needs to continue to monitor the real estate tax collections. Also recommending cybersecurity training for the real estate tax office personnel, and a repeat comment about bonding volunteers and all those that work in the office. In terms of the borough's audit, hitting the highlights with the communication to those charged with governance, this audit was conducted in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the U.S. This audit, like any audit, performs not a 100% test of all transactions, so therefore our independent auditor's report provides you with reasonable but not absolute assurance since it's not a 100% test. In terms of significant accounting policies, they're described in Note 2, the financial statements. There were two new standards that needed to be adopted for the year ended December 31st, 2019. GASB Statement 84 on fiduciary activities. So you'll see some changes in the presentation in the financial statements of the pension and OPEB trusts and some expanded footnote disclosures, as well as for your custodial fund, which is the Coal Miners Memorial Fund. You also needed to adopt for the year ended December 31st, 2019, GASB Standard Number 88 on debt disclosures, including direct borrowings. So in Note 4 to the financial statements, you'll see some new verbiage because of the adoption of GASB Standard 88. You also, by default, also adopted GASB Standard 95 that's mentioned in the communication letter. That's the standard issued recently that basically pushed out implementation dates for future GASB standards due to all of the COVID-19 things that municipalities had to deal with, so giving you some more time to implement standards. In terms of accounting estimates consistent with past years, the most significant accounting estimates impacting your GAAP financial statements are described in Notes 8 and 10 regarding your pension and other post-employment benefit liabilities, as they are very estimate-driven to come up with those liabilities as they sit on your financial statements. Your most significant disclosures is Note 5 regarding your guarantee of the Plum Boro Municipal Authority debt as the borough, and again, those pension and OPEB footnotes in Notes 8 and 10. You'll also notice you do have a Note 13 this year. That is the COVID-19 subsequent event. Again, just about every entity of every stripe in the United States will have a COVID-19 footnote in it. In your case, it's a subsequent event for your December 31st, 19 event that just says it'll have impacts on you as the borough, but it's still to be determined what all those impacts will be. We had no difficulties in performing the audit procedures with regard to the DCED report. The vast majority of those procedures had been completed before the pandemic hit in mid-March. We were able to conclude all of the procedures that we needed to issue this opinion on your GAAP financial statements remotely, and we certainly appreciate all of the cooperation of the borough staff in those endeavors. No disagreements with the borough about any auditing, accounting, or reporting matter. We did get written representation from management that they told us in writing that they agreed with these documents as issued. They didn't go out and consult with other independent accountants because they didn't like what we had to say about a given auditing, accounting, or reporting matter. And there were no issues discussed with us prior to our retention as auditors, whereby someone said to us, hey, you have to look the other way on this. You have to make sure you don't bring this to the attention of council. No conversations of that type. I'm just going to very briefly touch on the financial statements, and then I'll let you get on with your meeting. You did get an unmodified opinion on the primary government financial statements, which is what you present, primary government financial statements, because you don't incorporate financial statements for your component unit, the municipal authority. The municipal authority issues its own audit, and that's going to be issued shortly this month as well. If you look at your statement of net position, which is your balance sheet on a GAAP basis, full GAAP, full accrual basis, you had total assets of $41.2 million at December 31st. The biggest pieces were capital assets and the cash, including cash held for future capital projects, deferred outflows of $2.3 million, Total liabilities of $47.2 million, the vast majority of which was $33 million in long-term amounts for bonds and loans payable, $6.2 million in net OPEB liability or other post-employment benefit liability, and $4.6 million in net pension liability. Deferred inflows of resources of $2.6 million. And so then when you take your total assets plus your deferred outflows, less your liabilities, less your deferred inflows, you're left with your net position, which is a deficit net position of $6.2 million. Again, not uncommon for municipalities that have significant net OPEB liabilities and net pension liabilities. For the year ended December 31st, 2019, on a full accrual basis, you had expenses of about $19 million, program revenues of about $5 million, general revenues of $13.4 million, almost a break-even position then for the statement of activities with just a change in net position of about $500,000 for the year. On a fund basis, which is how you budget, your general fund at December 31st ended up with total assets of $6.3 million, total liabilities of $1.1 million, deferred inflows of $1.3 million, and total general fund balance of just under $4 million for December 31st of 2019. In terms of the general fund activity, the general fund ended with a positive net change in fund balance of the year on $13.5 million in revenue, little under $13 million in expenses, for a positive net change for the general fund of $503,568 for the year. Again, your footnotes to your financial statements, there's a lot of information there, disclosures on all your significant assets and liabilities, and all of your activity with your trust funds, pension, OPEB, and information on the custodial funds. That brings me to the end of my prepared remarks. If anyone had any questions on any of that, I'd be happy to take them.
Are there any questions? Great. Thank you very much for the thorough report. We appreciate it.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a good evening. Take care.
Thank you.
Any other civic announcements? Okay, moving on to president's comments. Typically at this time, we would go over the information from the last Stormwater Task Force meeting. We typically cover the minutes. An alternative to reading the minutes this evening, I really want to talk about the issue of stormwater, particularly in Plum, as we rapidly approach the year anniversary of the major flooding event that occurred July 21st and 22nd of 2019. The impact of that event was extremely difficult and painful for a number of Plum residents, and it was emotionally and financially devastating. I've recently received emails from residents asking to seek a way to obtain public input on the efforts of the Stormwater Task Force for allowing citizens to be part of the process and to start a public awareness campaign in many cases to address some of the issues that we've already identified during a number of the meetings that we've had with individuals who are involved in the task force itself. One of the things that I want to make sure that folks understand with respect to the activities of the task force is in relation to having a public meeting or a public forum. We have been working on trying to set up and establish a venue to hold where we could bring the public in to disseminate a lot of the information that the Stormwater Task Force has been working on over the last 6 months. We started 6 months ago when we formed the task force, and we intended to have a public forum. Unfortunately, COVID-19 happened, and as a result, we haven't had the ability to work to get a forum in place that would allow us to communicate with the residents as well as engage in the amount of social distancing that we've had to have as we transition from the red to the yellow, now to the green, and then kind of backwards a few baby steps to address some of the flare-ups in COVID-19 infections. So one of the things that I am going to do, the Stormwater Task Force is meeting next week, is to sit down with the members of the task force to talk to them about what vehicle can we put in place, whether it's virtual or whether we try to do something in person. I know a lot of people have different feelings about this particular issue. Bringing people together, in some cases, folks find that to be irresponsible given the current situation that we're in with the pandemic. Others really believe that we could pull this off virtually, which I think is the case. But I also don't want to leave out a segment of the community that may not be able to participate in a virtual event. So we're going to discuss that and work on finding a suitable alternative to making sure that we disseminate the information out to the public relative to the efforts of the Stormwater Task Force. There are a number of things that have been done. I know everybody doesn't go and read the meeting minutes from the task force. I would encourage all of you to do so, but we believe that we need to get a different vehicle in place to get that information out to individuals. I think you deserve to have that information, given that the meetings aren't open to the public, and we're going to endeavor to meet that expectation. Regarding the actual makeup of the task force, for those of you who might not have been at the work session, we did announce that 2 individuals have resigned from the task force, Carlos Escalante and Rick Vigno. I want to personally thank them for their efforts. They're no longer able to continue on the task force due to competing priorities. And so members of the community who desire to be considered for appointment to the task force are encouraged to apply on the borough website. You can get to that at link.plumboro.com/stormapp, STORMAPP. And members of the task force will review those applicants for consideration for participation on the task force itself. But as we near the actual anniversary date of the flooding, I wanted to make sure that I recognize that by the time July 21st gets here, we certainly won't have another council meeting until August. And I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that and that we are definitely endeavoring to make sure that we're making the progress that you would expect us to, given the tenets of the task force when we started it. So those are all the items that I have for President's comments. At this time, we'll move on to the manager's report.
I have no report this evening.
Thank you, sir. Citizen comments on agenda items. Did we get any?
We have nobody signed up.
Okay. Seeing none. Moving on to council actions. On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, Mr. Delaney.
Okay. On behalf of the Planning and Economic Committee, I move to adopt resolution number 880-20 for the Allegheny County 2019 Side Yard Program for 708 Unity Center Road with conditions as recommended by the borough staff.
Motion by Mr. Delaney.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move to adopt resolution number 881-20 for the 2019 flood mitigation grant application for the proposed Center Beach project.
Motion by Mr. Delaney.
I'll second that one also.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Just a little bit of discussion on
Yes,
what
sir.
that's about. You
Yes,
wanna
I think
discuss
that's
it?
important. Yes, sir.
Do you go? You want to?
Go ahead.
I don't know if I don't want to be a limelight stealer here. If everyone remembers way back in Plum, down where Center is, there used to be a swim club there, a pool, and we're looking at purchasing that and making that into a retention sort of pond storm facility. So in the event of a storm, that's going to slow down water that flows behind Center, down underneath Funfars, behind Superior Window, and then down Unity Center Road, down to Anderson Avenue. So that was one of the biggest things that the Stormwater Task Force came up with that's going to affect the most amount of people. So if anything to add to that, but it's a promising project. It's going to take time to do it, but you know, this is the first step to get that moving.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Dern. That is important, and these are the types of things that I think we need to get out to the community when we have a community meeting. So we have a motion on the floor. It was by Mr. Delaney. It was seconded by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move to add the Benora lot line revision to the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Delaney, second by Mr. Doyle. You have to open that up for
You have to ask the, yeah, you have to open it
for
up to
public
the
comment.
Yep.
Is there any public comment?
Would you like me to explain?
Yes, please do, sir.
So back in March of this year, council approved the FSC-2-20, the Benora lot line subdivision. There were some issues with the drawing itself, and they were unable to get the drawing recorded down at the county. So those corrections have been made on the drawing, and the actual drawing that the county will accept has to be reapproved again. So this is conceptually was already approved by council. There were some paperwork issues, if you will, with the actual drawings that were produced, and this is just an attempt to correct that. There's no changes to the proposed land development, or lot line revision in this case.
Okay, is there any additional public comment? So we have a motion to add the Benora lot line revision to the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I move to reapprove FSC-02-20, the Benora lot line revision located at 3942 Salzburg Road as amended.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Delaney, second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, Mr. Hadley.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to create the position of Assistant Chief of Police. Said position shall be an FLSA exempt, non-union management position.
We have a motion by Mr. Hadley,
I'll second that.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to adopt the job description for the Assistant Chief of Police.
Motion by Mr. Hadley,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to appoint Mark Fosseretta to the position of Assistant Chief of Police.
Motion by Mr. Hadley,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
On behalf of Personnel and Management Committee, I move to appoint Joseph Little to the position of Juvenile Detective.
Motion by Mr. Hadley,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Pastor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
That
Hadley.
is all. Thank you, Mr. President.
On behalf of the Finance Committee, Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Finance Committee, I move to adopt resolution number 882-20 for the East Hills DUI Task Force grant.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Finance Committee, with discussion, Mr. President, if you don't mind, I move to authorize borough staff to reimburse the Plum Chamber of Commerce $4,718 for their local business promotion project.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
I'll second that with the discussion.
Mr. Thomas, would you please explain to everybody what the business promotion project is?
So all homes should have received an 8.5 by 11, it's called a postcard. I don't understand how it's called a postcard because it's 8.5 by 11. But everybody in town received, every household in town received a 8.5 by 11 placard, two-sided, and it was they have coupons on one side and a raffle ticket on the other. And it was a program that was designed by the Plum Chamber of Commerce to help promote some of the local businesses in response to the COVID pandemic shutdown. Mr. Odom and I met with the chamber about some of their ideas to help some of these local businesses. That was something that we thought we could recommend to council. The chamber doesn't have a whole lot of money, and it was our recommendation that the borough this was a good thing for borough businesses, and that the council should consider reimbursing them for that expense.
Great. Will we get any feedback as to the success of the program?
We have gotten feedback from the chamber, and they've had a lot of success with it. The business was very happy with it, and they reported that they had a lot of new business as a result of it.
Good.
That's great.
That's awesome to hear.
Good. It's fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
So we have a motion by Mr. Doyle, second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That ends my report.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of the Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, Mr. Pastor.
Thank you. On behalf of the Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, I move to authorize the Davidson Road Detention Pond Project.
Motion by Mr. Pastor.
Second?
Second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Wait for it. Motion carries.
I love the delay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Passer. That ends council actions. Moving on to the mayor's report. Mayor Slagle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have some fun to do tonight. And the first thing we might as well do, and I know I'll make them wait. We have got Mike DeMarco, our traffic officer, is back from vacation, and Mike has been out there installing the ATS traffic speed limit signs out there, the radar. And again, I won't go through them all, but it always amazes me how many vehicles pass that sign one way in a given period of time. In a 25-day period on Rustic Ridge, 16,500 vehicles. This blows my mind. Sheer road again, one way. From June 5th to June 29th, 98,849 vehicles travel that road. And you think you could raise the manhole covers up, because I hit them with my car every friggin' time.
Maybe we should make it a toll road, Mayor.
We should tow it, yeah. And again, on Leechburg Road, 29,419 vehicles. I could go through more, 14,200 on Neighbors Creek. Creek.
It's correct.
14,200 vehicles. We have a lot of traffic out there, and Mr. Delaney has been getting calls as well as I'm myself. We're trying to figure out a way, and I guess Mr. Delaney's going to take the lead on this, to try and get people to slow down. The ATS radar sign is effective while it is there, but it can't remain there because people would ignore it. When it's there, the average speed above the posted speed limit is less than 5 miles an hour. But when you look at almost 99,000 vehicles on sheer road going on, that's one direction. At first we thought with Halton Road closed that was a lot of the traffic, but Halton Road is open. So it's just a lot of people going out there. I've got some other issues to discuss, and the reason I'm making them wait, they may as well sit here and suffer through all these meetings. One of the great things about Plum, we have a lot of thoughtful citizens here. And to give you an example, on June 4th, Laura Dobransky of Laura's Floral Boutique provided bouquets of flowers to all of our police officers. On June 18th, Plum EMS provided lunch from Jaden's Catering for the daylight and afternoon shifts. On June 10th, Tony Veltries provided gift certificates to Veltries Pizza. And on June 18th, Mr. Ruhal of the Hindu Jain Temple, located in Monroeville, provided lunch for the police department from Panera in recognition of real-life heroes. June 25th, David Poremba, and he's the owner of the Corner Car Wash, and he provided lunch from Nesbitt's Lane for the daylight and afternoon shifts. On June 26th, Kevin Collins had 2 pizzas delivered to the police department as an appreciation of his support. And lastly, and this I was pleasant to see, and 2 of our officers stopped on to thank this lady. She made 26 officers very happy. On her own, Donna Knapp sent a heartfelt card, and it was addressed to the chief, and I had the pleasure of seeing that, expressing her feelings towards the police department. Mrs. Knapp met with two of our officers, Temple and Schneider-Lochner, and I went down later that evening to thank her for what she did. And that was the third or fourth time that day she cried. She had a call from the chief, then the two officers stopped by to thank her, and she didn't realize that she was going to, what her thank you, her spontaneous sending of a card. She found a thank you card and wanted to send it out to the police department. And then I stopped by and she was crying again. She just didn't realize what kind of effect her thank you had on our police department. And for that, I want to thank all these people. And are you gentlemen ready now? Officers, would you please come on up front? Right over there, fine gentlemen. And since rank has this privilege, Joe. Mark, would you raise your hand? I, Mark Edward Fosseret.
I, Mark Edward Fosseret.
Accept the duties and responsibilities
Accept the duties and responsibilities
of the position of Assistant Chief of Police of Plum Boro.
of the position of Assistant Chief of Police of Plum Boro,
And do solemnly and sincerely swear
and do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the constitutions of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
and of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
And I will be faithful to bear true allegiance to the Commonwealth
and I will be faithful to bear allegiance to the Commonwealth
and to the constitutional powers and authority
and to the constitutional powers and authority
which are or may be established
which are or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
and that I will endeavor to support,
and that I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend the Constitution of said Commonwealth,
maintain, and defend the Constitution of said Commonwealth,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly
that
swear
I will be alert and vigilant
that I will be alert and vigilant
to enforce the criminal laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
to enforce the criminal laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
that I will not be influenced in any matter on account of personal,
that I will not be influenced on account of any matter of personal
bias, or prejudice,
bias or prejudice,
that I will faithfully and impartially execute
that I will faithfully and impartially execute
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as Chief of Police
as Chief of Police
according to the best of my skill, abilities, and judgment.
according to the best of my ability,
So
skill,
help
and
me
judgment.
God.
So help me God.
Chief, congratulations.
Congratulations,
Little.
Mark.
Thank you.
Would you raise your right hand, sir? I, Joseph Edward Little,
I, Joseph Edward Little,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the constitutions of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania
and of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania
and the ordinances of Plum Boro,
and the ordinances of Plum Boro,
and will and faithfully perform
and will and faithfully perform
the duties imposed upon me
the duties imposed upon me
as a police detective of Plum Boro
as a police detective of Plum Boro
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
and that I will serve the United States,
and that I will serve the United States,
the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and Plum Boro
and Plum Boro
honestly and faithfully,
honestly and faithfully,
and will obey the orders
and will obey the orders
of the officers and officials
of the officers and officials
placed over me according to law.
placed over me according to law.
Detective,
Thank you, sir.
congratulations. And I'll leave you both with your pen.
Congratulations, Joe.
Thank you, gentlemen.
If you would sign there in the back copy, please. And that is yours.
Thank you.
And Mark, please. And if you'd sign that one, please. This is your copy. If you would give these to the chief, I'd appreciate it. That takes care of all the paperwork. Thank you.
Congratulations, guys.
And I have one final thing, and this is not pleasant. You have to give me a minute. Every time I think about this, my blood pressure goes up. I had this discussion in the back, and I don't want to use this forum, and I don't want to make a habit of doing them. However, there was something posted on social media, and I quote, "I thought it would be best to start a new conversation here. For those who haven't seen it, there is a heated debate about someone implying Republicans are racist. I would like to take that statement even further. If you are white and you are living in the United States, you are a racist. I say this as a white woman." Unquote. That statement was posted by an elected Democratic school board member, Amy Wetmore. Every person in this room, according to her, this council, our police department, are racist. I'm not going to tolerate that. We do not need divisiveness in this community. We have not had any issues like that in the past. Elected officials are personally responsible for all their comments. They have the freedom of speech or anything they publish online. For example, school director Brian Wisniewski last year was forced to resign when he cut and pasted something from Facebook. What is applied to a conservative Republican must be applied to a liberal Democrat. There are no double standards here in Plum. A few years ago, the school administrators, and in my opinion, some of the school board members, did nothing when they knew there was inappropriate contact between teachers and students. That was indeed a black eye for Plum Boro. And are we heading back down that same path today? Now, there's a Thursday night meeting at the school board. Fortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it. Inappropriate, defamatory, and insulting rhetoric from a school director, an elected official, is unacceptable. This council, this community, needs to loudly call for the removal of Amy Wetmore as a school board director. She will and is going to be voting on decisions and policies directly affecting the children of Plum Boro. And with that attitude, to make that statement, I don't think she should remain a school board member. So I'm calling and asking each person to let the school board know that you're not going to put up with that. We do not need divisiveness here in Plum. Now, I'm sure there are some examples of racism, and you can find them everywhere, but I'll be candid with you, I don't know of them. And I hope I never encounter, because that will send my blood pressure up as well. And with that, Mr. President, I am finished.
Before we move on, Mr. President, if I can piggyback on the mayor's comments.
Yes, sir.
Excuse the glasses, but the one sentence here I would like to take that statement even further. If you are white and you live in the United States, you are racist. The hysterical part about that statement is that is a racist statement in and of itself. I have to laugh at it, because if not, my blood pressure will be as high as the mayor's. It's ignorant, it's reckless, and this woman, I don't know Ms. Wetmore, so I'm not going to judge her the way she apparently judges us. But I will also say that there was a gentleman, I believe his title with the Democrat Party of Allegheny County was executive director, former Marine and a pretty good guy. His name was Mark Salvis. A couple years ago, he said in public, "I kneel for the cross and I stand for the flag." And he was forced out and made to resign by the Allegheny County Democrats. And now we have this. At the least, the mayor, she should resign. And I think she's also the chairman of the Plum Boro Democrat Party. Guys, police your stuff up. I mean, this is unacceptable and offensive. And with that, I will yield back.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to committee reports. The Intergovernmental Committee, Cooperative Committee with the Plum School District. I did get an email from Mr. Tomarello regarding a tentative date for the meeting on August the 11th. So if that date sticks, then we will be attending the Intergovernmental Cooperative Committee meeting with the Plum School District. And I'm sure we'll have a number of issues to discuss. Moving on to Finance Committee, Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance Committee report for July 13th, 2020. Number one, the general fund highlights for the month of June 2020. The borough recognized revenues totaling $758,505 and incurred expenses in the amount of $1,218,808. The revenues to date, we have received $2.03 million in current year earned income tax revenues, and this represents 52% of the adopted budget. Also, during the month of June, the borough received $38,209,000 under regional asset district funding, and we are currently at 51% of the budget. Under sanitation revenues, for the year, we have received approximately $1.1 million, and this represents 49% of the budget. Overall, revenues are trending as anticipated, and we expect the pandemic to negatively impact the year-end numbers. As far as the expenditures are concerned, through the month of June, the borough has expended 47% of its budget, or that equates to $6.24 million. Projected through the end of the year, we are not anticipating any material departmental budget overruns and should experience expenditures that are below budgeted. The borough will be processing its first draw against the 2020 tax anticipation note totaling $300,000. That ends my report.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle.
Yes, sir.
Roads, Equipment, and Grounds, Mr. Pastor.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. Project updates for the month of June 2020. Youngbud Paving has completed all the paving awarded from the 2019 paving contract. All resident complaints have been addressed. The waterline and stormwater project has begun on Salzburg Road. There will be lane restrictions during the construction, limited to one lane controlled by flaggers. This project is expected to last 10 to 12 weeks. We've scheduled pre-construction meeting with A. Liberoni Construction for the 2020 paving project, and the Holiday Park Stormwater Project Phase 1 is out for bid. This is being handled by the Council of Government. This will affect properties on Skyline Drive, Blue Ridge Drive, and Pine Valley Drive. Road maintenance updates for the month of June. We completed the installation of 115 feet of 15-inch pipe on Impala Drive. This pipe runs from the street to an outfall at the creek. All work has been completed, including yard restoration. We have replaced and repaired 10 stormwater inlets on Chaparral Drive, and we also replaced 5 pipe crossings. There will be more work going in on this area in the coming months. We have completed the replacement of 150 feet of pipe on Duquesne Boulevard in the Ramparts plan. This project became quite involved because our pipe that we had to replace was directly below a gas line, and we were waiting for the backfill area to settle because we were unable to tamp the area due to material the gas line was made of. Once settled, we will bid out the paving of the parking area for the residents. We replaced 80 feet of underdrain at Woodlawn Estates that was clogged by tree roots. We installed one-way and do not enter signs on Ralph Street at the recommendation of the traffic engineers. We completed all inlet repairs and underdrain installation in the Rustic Ridge area. We did tree trimming on Entrance Drive, Voskamp Road, and Nichols Road. We'll continue patching potholes and making curb repairs with hot asphalt mix. We used 72 tons of asphalt for infrastructure repairs and 26 tons of asphalt for pothole patching and curb repairs reported to the department, and installed new street signs where necessary. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Pastor. Public Safety, Mr. Dern.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. To go off of something that the mayor stated earlier, we have a terrific speeding problem in the borough. And this is just a public announcement. The speed limits are 25 miles an hour. And I'm just asking everyone, if everyone just tries to be a little bit more aware of how fast they're going, 25 isn't that fast. And if everyone would just keep in mind, if you had a child that was playing on the road, would you want someone going 50 miles an hour down that road? So I'm just asking everybody, be a little bit more aware of the speed you're going on all the residential streets. I have the EMS report. Brian Maloney couldn't be here tonight. For the month of June, there were 234 total responses. There were 140 patients transported. Responses to other communities for mutual aid was 25. 17 of those responses resulted in a transport to the hospital. And the total mutual aid that received in the Plum were 8. Out of all the requests for EMS in Plum, 3.8 were turned over to neighboring EMS agencies. And for EMS News, the monthly CPR classes are back in place and are going strong. CPR classes are full and all precautions are being taken to maintain a safe learning environment. Holiday Park Volunteer Fire Department has been generous enough to allow the Plum EMS to use their social hall to make this happen. The EMS is also conducting car seat safety checks. 9 checks were completed over the month of June, and 3 free car seats were provided to the community. And also, the Public Safety Committee meeting will be scheduled here soon, and we will be discussing other ways of trying to control the speeding. And, you know, the one thing that we do as of the mayor's report, when the speed signs are in the neighborhood, everybody seems to really slow down and pay attention to them. So if anyone out there feels that there's a problem, get a hold of me or the mayor, and we will make an arrangement to put that speed sign on that particular road. And, you know, that may help to bring more people to aware of how fast they're going. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dern. Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Delaney?
No report.
You don't have the report? Okay. Parks and Recreation, Mr. Delaney.
All right. Parks and Recreation. Larry Mills crews installed a wall inside of a pole building for better utilization, and they helped set up for the movies in the park. For Plum Creek Park, I want to make sure everybody knows that the Pirates camp that they had scheduled is now canceled. It was originally scheduled for the end of July. We want to note that please be mindful that there are others around you. Continue to practice social distancing and staying safe. We're working on the engineers to finalize park plans, and we've started the mowing and maintenance at all fields and parks. And in terms of facilities, the automatic door at the community center was prepared. And you can feel free to tell me to stop if you want, Mr. President, but I can't. I just have to say something about what the mayor brought up. There's definitely a new group in Plum that's causing a lot of stir. And while I certainly do not agree with the way Amy phrased those comments, what I can say is when we're tackling tough issues like racism, mistakes are going to be made. When people are learning and growing and trying to learn things, they're going to say things that are wrong. And, you know, I totally support people going to the school board meeting, you know, and holding her accountable. And it will be interesting to see what happens with that. But, we cannot hide ourselves away. We need to have these tough conversations. We need to really look at the institutional racism, the culturally entrenched racism, the implicit bias that does exist in this country. It is out there, and it is tough to see. So I couldn't sit here and not say anything. We all need to do better. We all need to be less divisive. We all need to unify and learn and grow and heal together. And that's where I will echo their statements that a phrase like that, any kind of general statement like that, is not good, and it just causes more division. And that's not what we want, and that's not what we want in Plum. So, let's do better. Let's do better, Plum.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Planning Commission will not meet in August, and at this point, we will discuss citizen comments on non-agenda items. Did anyone
We
sign
have
up?
nobody that signed up, but you can ask the public if they'd like to.
Yeah. If anyone would like to speak, they're certainly welcome to. Yes, sir. Just state your name and address.
Pat Clancy, I live in 9014 Salzburg Road. I live next to the Kinnicky Trailer Park. It's been an ongoing problem for years, and I believe he's in violation of a couple different codes. And I don't know, I'd like to get it resolved somehow. I got a trailer sitting in front of my house, or beside my house. I've been here before. It's been years, and it's ridiculous. I got it, last time I was here, I had one 40-foot trailer. Now I got two. And it's just something that needs to be addressed. And I don't know how to do it. I need you guys to tell me what to do, because they're your codes,
Okay, sir. No, I appreciate you bringing that matter to our attention. We'll certainly bring it up with the borough manager and talk about what potential options are available for us.
I would like you to get back to me. I'd like to have a meeting with whoever is in charge of this. I'd like something to happen. It's been going on for a long, long time.
That's on Salzburg Road, sir?
Yes.
What was the address?
94, his is 9,000 Salzburg. Mine's 9014.
It's right on the left if you're coming from the four-way stop where the cemetery is right there. I know exactly the property you're talking about.
He got a bunch of cars up there. I don't know how many wrecked cars I gotta look at, how many junk trailers that are not roadworthy, they're not livable. I mean, it's ridiculous, but thank you.
It's definitely a tough situation, sir, and the problem that we have with something like that is that we're not in the job of policing, I don't like how that person takes care of their house. I don't like what it looks like.
It's in violation of ordinances you guys have.
Well, and that's where, I can definitely say that we'll look into it, we'll see what ordinances are there, we'll see which ones you think he's in violation of, and we'll do what we can. But, we gotta watch, because we can't make special rules for him that won't apply to other people. So it's a tricky situation.
I would appreciate if you could check into it and get back to me.
Yeah, I think that is something we can definitely agree. This morning, you might not like our answer. That's all I gotta say.
Don't like it the way it is now either, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, any other citizen comments on non-agenda items? Okay, with that, we'll entertain a motion for, yes, sir. Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I wanted to bring this up before. Mike Thomas, Mona, Vince, Joe Fischetti. Movie in the Park was last Saturday. We had less than we've had in the past, and I think it was because it rained hard the night before, but it's a perfect night up there. My record still stands, gentlemen. It's been 5 times. It has been perfect weather for borough events. The next movie is going to be August the 8th. It is not released to the public yet, I understand. It is Scoob. Kids got all excited about it, but okay.
Like Scooby-Doo? Scoob?
Kind of like Scooby-Doo Scoob. It's the new, it's in the theaters, but it's not up.
Man.
And if you're unfamiliar with it, we've now opened it up. You can bring your vehicle up and park, and a lot of people do that. Sit behind the vehicle. It's easy to throw the kids in the back when they fall asleep and go home. The kids have a great time because they're running around the soccer fields before. Popcorn is provided by the Rotary, and it's free. And the kids, all the comments from the kids and the parents, they've thoroughly enjoyed it. So this next one, August 8th, will be our last. And again, our borough staff just does a great job in bringing these things. And Vince, I got to thank you for putting it all together and all the equipment to make it work. And then one final thing. The Elks in Oakmont, of which Mr. Dice, Mr. Doyle, and myself are members of, donated $2,000 last month, or earlier this month, in June, to Meals on Wheels. And I needed to get that out because I need a plug for the lodge. And that's it.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor, or Mayor Slagle. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Doyle,
Second.
Second.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, we're adjourned.